Hi everyone, welcome back to Earl Grey Books. I'm Ellie and today I'm starting my first of my 2 Eurovisionathon vlogs for this year. Last year I think I did 4, 1 per week. This year I just have a couple of other things happening at the same time as the readathon, so I will be doing 2. And I'm going to split the readathon in half. So this is the first half. We're actually a couple of days into the readathon already. It is Tuesday the 18th and the readathon started on Saturday. I filmed this intro clip about 3 times. I just haven't been happy with it. That's just a recurring theme at the moment with my videos. I'm just not happy with what I'm filming. So I'm trying to push past that and hopefully this will be the one that works. But I am here, I'm going to let you know what I have been reading. It hasn't been a great start to the readathon. I think I'm going to end up kind of playing the long game with this one. So I thought I'd talk a little bit in this one about what my kind of goals are and my plan of attack for the readathon in general, and then specifically for the next, I guess, week and a half now. And then we'll talk a little bit about reassess my goals and change and adapt them as the readathon goes on. So originally I had planned that I was going to read 20 of the countries participating in Eurovision this year, which is like half of the countries plus a couple, and that is still currently my goal, but we'll see how we go with that on the account that I have currently finished 1 book. For these first 2 weeks I'm definitely going to be trying to read the ones back here that I own physically, and specifically the ones that aren't rereads for me. There are a couple of rereads there that will be kind of shuffled till the last 2 weeks, I think, but we'll see how things go with that. But also kind of want to try and mark off a couple of countries that I didn't last year. So I went through all of the books that I read for last year's and just did a little, asterisk next to the countries that I hadn't read. Now, I know I won't be able to read all of them, especially because some of the countries that I have read last year were, just the big countries that are involved that are easy to find books for, like France and Italy and the UK and places like that. So I'll still be marking those ones off this year, but I would at least like to read, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 6 of the countries that I didn't read last year, just because it's a nice little way of learning more. And if I'm going to do this readathon, I'm going to continue to do this readathon, which I plan to as long as Helen does it. If I'm just reading the same countries every single year, that kind of defeats the purpose of doing the readathon. This is, for me, all about finding new books and getting a little bit out of my comfort zone and trying some things that I might not have tried otherwise. So that's where I'm heading with this. So let's talk about the ones that I have started, and we'll first of all, of course, talk about the one that I did finish, which was Armenian Myths and Legends. This is by the Charles River editors. This is just a tiny little 48-page non-fiction talking about Armenian myths and legends, as you may have guessed from the title. And this was an interesting read. I really don't know anything about Armenian history, so in that sense it was really interesting. I'm hoping that I can find a book probably after the readathon that is more detailed, because as I said, this is only 48 pages. But I decided to give this one a 3-star because it really just throws you into it. There's absolutely no introduction or conclusion really, And so there isn't much context given. There's also no glossary or anything like that. So you are kind of just expected to know what some of these things are, as in specific regions, and it obviously is talking a lot about like ancient times. So it'll mention like ancient Rome and things like that, and it does kind of expect that you know some of the other countries or regions that you don't hear about so much, specifically around that area. That does mean that I had to do a lot of research while reading it to know what it was talking about, but it was interesting. Maybe the book wasn't interesting, but the subject matter was interesting, so I did enjoy that. And like I said, hopefully I can find something else that is a more in-depth discussion. So with that, like I said, I started 4 other books. We're going to talk about 3 of them first, because I am only really focusing on one of them actively. So we'll get to that one at the end, and I'll talk about my goals for the next few days. But on my Kindle, I started The Woman Who Borrowed Memories by Tove Jansson. This is a little short story collection. This is my book for Finland. So I did start this one. I thought I started this one as my first read because I was like, oh, it's a short story collection. It'll be super quick to read and I'll mark it off in like an hour or 2. It is not a super quick read. It's only like 300 pages, but it's also one of those ebooks. It does the percentage. It also does the page numbers. But this is page 29, and so is this. So page 29 goes over 2 pages, and then it goes to page 30. So it is, it doesn't move as fast as I was anticipating. I think I've read the first 4 stories though, and we'll see how we go. Right now, not loving it, but they also haven't been the worst short stories I've ever read. Okay, and then I have The Sisters of the Winterwood by Raina Rosner, which I started yesterday. I read the first 19 pages. This one I think will be a relatively quick read once I actually get into it, because it's broken into, just your standard chapters, usually longer than 2 pages. But then after that, there'll be a chapter which is told in verse. So I think that once I actually get into it, it will move quite quickly. It's interesting so far. I have absolutely no idea what's happening, but I'm not hating it. So we'll see how we go, and don't really have a plan of when I'm going to finish any of these 3 at the moment, but we'll come back. And I also started 3 Summers by Margarita Liberaki. Oh, I forgot to say, this is my book for Moldova, but it is also, I believe, it's set on the border of Moldova and Ukraine, so I may use it for Ukraine. We'll see. So yes, 3 Summers is Greece, and I've only read, again, the first 28 pages of this one. This one's like a historical literary fiction. Not loving it, not having a great time with it, but I think it's one that I take kind of slowly. I will vaguely enjoy. I knew going into this that I probably wouldn't love it, so we'll just continue slowly with that one. And then the last one I have here is The Bone Woman by Clea Koff. So I started this one just before the readathon. I think I'd read about 30 pages or so. I'm now 154 pages in. I started it before the readathon because this is a book about a forensic anthropologist going through the mass graves in Rwanda, Bosnia, Croatia, and Kosovo. This is my book for Croatia, and also Croatia is in sort of this back half that I'm just sort of reached. This is really, really interesting so far. It's not as harrowing as I thought it would be, and I think that's partly because Koff goes in with a kind of positive outlook. She's really there because she wants to help people, and she has a sort of distance from these human remains, and as such we also have a bit of distance from that because I don't know, it's like an emotional distance rather than a physical distance. But it is really, really interesting so far. I'm hoping, so like I said, I'm 154 pages in, but there are 314 pages. I'm hoping to finish this one by Thursday night because it is Rare this weekend, which is a romance event I've been talking about for months, and I'm not going to take any books that aren't related to the event with me, so I'd like to have this one finished before then, so that it's not like I don't have like 50 pages to read when I'm home on Monday. I just feel like it would be a good idea to finish it off, and then I can go into something else on the weekend. So that's why I'm not so fussed about these 3 at the moment, because I just want to get this one done, and once I finish that I will focus more on these. I'll probably start something else, knowing me, but that's it. I will be back hopefully Thursday night or Thursday afternoon to let you know that I finished this and my thoughts on it, and hopefully I may do a little bit of progress with some of these others, but I will see you all then. Okay, hello, it's Thursday afternoon. Very exciting stuff has happened. I finished my assignment. I have packed. I've done pretty much everything that I need to do ahead of Rare tomorrow, apart from film this clip. So here we are to update you on my reading. I did it. I finished The Bone Woman. I absolutely loved this. It was fantastic. It's probably one of the most fascinating books I have ever read in my entire life, but at the same time, like, I know that I would absolutely never, under no circumstances, ever become a forensic anthropologist. As it sounded, it sounds kind of cool and interesting, but I was still reading it being like, oh god, I am so glad that I didn't read this at like a formative age and want to become a forensic anthropologist, which is something that Claire Koff talks about, and that kind of the same thing happened with her, where she read a book and was like, that's what I want to do. I don't even know where to start with why I enjoyed it that much. It's an interesting book. It definitely maintains a sense of distance from so many things. It talks a lot about the bodies she is finding and, things that are, go along with that. And also she talks a bit about the history and how the specific countries got to that point, and some of it is, kind of detailed, and some of the things are obviously quite awful, but at the same time there's still a level of distance between you and the situation, which is interesting. And I feel like there's also a bit of a distance between you and Claire Koff. So she's about 24 in this book, and I believe she wrote it maybe a year or two after, so she was still super young. And so I feel like there's still a distance between sort of Clea's mental state and things that are happening in her life and the people around her, there's still that distance between you and her. And I wonder if she'd been older when she'd written this, or older when she'd done this work, that maybe that would be different. Just talk about those things briefly, but it is not a memoir. It is really a sort of an exploration of these ideas. I don't really know what I would classify it as, because it's not a memoir, it's not an autobiography, but at the same time it's not really history or I don't know, anything like that. Maybe I don't think I've ever read really like an anthropology book. Maybe this is that kind of feeling that it has to it, but I really enjoyed it still. I would not recommend it to people though, because as much as I've said there is that distance, at times there isn't, and there are some really awful images that sort of could creep up. And so while, I mean, it's truly amazing that I managed to get through this, because I'm usually extremely anxious about this kind of stuff, but I could get through it okay, and it was fine. And even some of the kind of gruesome things, or things that I thought maybe like, oh, that's going to give me anxiety later, didn't. And I think that that's mostly in the way that it was written. But at the same time, I wouldn't go out and tell people to read this, because it's a lot. It's a lot. And yeah. But it was good. It was good. So with that marks off the second book that I've read for Eurovisionathon. We're almost a week in, so it's not really going as I'd planned, but I'm glad that I read this. This was really, really worth the read for me. So happy to have done that. And then, as I said, it is rare this weekend, so I just made the decision to take my Kindle, because I might want to read a little bit, and then like I do have, it's a book event I'm going there to buy books, so I'll have lots and lots of things I could choose from. But I'm also taking my Kindle in case I don't feel like reading physically, and also then I can do a little bit of reading for Eurovisionathon if I would like to. So I have 3 on there at the moment. So I still have the Tove Jansson for Finland, The Woman Who Borrowed Memories, still 12% of the way through that one. And then I also just from the library got That Hair by Deja Miller. I can't read her last name because of the thing, but it's Pereira something Almeida. This is my book for Portugal. I believe it's quite short. Let me have a look. Yeah, it's 163 pages, so I'm hoping that if I choose to read that one, I could probably read it like all in one go, or at least, you know, that might be a good one for the weekend, because I could probably read it quite fast, but over a number of reading periods. The other one I have is what is this one actually called? Women and Change in Cyprus, by Maria Hadjipavlou. I bought this one for last year, and then for Cyprus, and didn't read it last year, so I might pick it up. I don't know if going one non-fiction into another non-fiction is what I'll want to do, but I do have it here if I want. Now, how many pages is this one? This one doesn't say, but it does give me like a contents page, and it says the appendix starts on page 251. Whether that translates into the ebook, we'll see. But yeah, we'll just, yeah, I don't think this will be the one I pick up, but if it is, that's good too. And yes, the only other thing that I wanted to mention was I did take 2 books off my TBR for this, for the UK and for the Czech Republic. Last night from the library, I ended up borrowing The Essex Serpent by Sarah Perry, which was going to be my book for the UK. And I thought that would be my read for this weekend. So last night, after finishing The Bone Woman, I was like, I'll just read like the first chapter or 2, so that when I start Friday or Saturday or whenever, I've started a little bit. And so I did that, and pretty much immediately was so confused by the writing style that I decided I would just take it off the list. I think one of the things with this was that in the first like 5% that I read, I was like, I have no idea what's happening. I don't even know what time period it is, because I kind of thought that it was set in like, I don't know, the 1800s, and then at one point he's like on the tube, and I was like, oh, okay, so it's like kind of modern-ish, and then that kind of just threw me off. And yeah, after that I finished the first chapter and I was like, yeah, you know what, I'm just gonna give this one a pass. It's not like I don't have hundreds of books that I could read for the UK. Like that's literally the easiest country on the list to mark off. So I've got plenty of things that I could read, and that way I could take something off my physical TBR. But then I had also put Melmoth as my book for the Czech Republic, which is also by Sarah Perry, and I feel like I'm probably not going to end up reading that one either, so I'm going to try and find something else for Czech. And we'll see how we go with that. But I will keep you updated as I get to those countries. And like I said, I'll probably work on one of these 3 for the weekend if I read anything Eurovisionathon, and then come back Monday afternoon, and hopefully I'm kind of hoping that maybe I have Monday, Tuesday off, because Tuesday is Anzac Day here in Australia, which is our sort of Memorial Day. We also do Remembrance Day, but we also have specifically Anzac Day. So that's a day off. So I think I will maybe use those 2 days to try and finish off a book. Possibly 2. We'll see. But I'll be back then. And yes, I'm gonna go have a super fun weekend now, and I'll see you Monday. Did you just meow directly into my microphone? Hi friends, we're here with a fledge. Do you what? We're here in my room today. Apologies if it is a little loud. I just remembered the window's open. But my partner's on a call in the other room, so I thought that while he was doing that, I have a huge list of things I need to do today, so I thought it would be a good time to come in here and do a quick little update. It's Tuesday today. And I thought I would jump in and let you know what I have been reading over the weekend and my goal for the rest of this week, which will bring us to the end of this vlog. So I'm going to end this vlog on Sunday afternoon, because that's the end of the month and therefore kind of works for the 2 weeks as well. But let's jump in with what I've read. I finished one book since I spoke to you last, which is That Hair by Djamila Pereira de Almeida. Completely just trying to remember that one on my own, so apologies if it's wrong, but the cover will be up there anyway. So I finished that one. I didn't really enjoy this. It had some really beautiful writing, and I could feel that it was in points it was really, really well done. And then it just, it's a literary fiction, which is not something I tend to enjoy. And it just didn't quite come together. It's supposed to be surrounding this girl's hair, and as a person of mixed race living in Portugal, and her experiences there, but it kept bringing it back to the idea of hair, but it wasn't like the start of the chapter and the end of the chapter would be about the hair, and then everything in between was not even relevant at all. And I enjoyed those parts separately. I just felt like they needed to be tied together better in order for them to work. And if I had picked, I probably would have picked to keep that stuff in the middle, which was a lot about her family and her, you know, her two sides of her family and trying to find her identity. Is that Alex? It is. So that's the only thing I read, I finished over the weekend. I did do a little bit more reading yesterday and today. And we'll go through those and we'll talk a little bit about my plans. So I've still been reading the Tove Jansson. I'm now 29% of the way through, and I feel like I've been reading this forever, and I feel like I'm going to be reading it forever. I only have a few more days left of my library hold though. It's meant to be only 305 pages, but it's just really quite slow to read. So I think I have the library hold for 4 or 5 days at this point. And I will try and get through as much of it in that as I possibly can. If we're kind of getting towards the end, I might skip a few stories. We'll see. But yeah, right now I'm 29% of the way through, which is about 78 pages. So I've made a decent chunk in it. So I've enjoyed some of the stories, and we'll talk about it more once I've finished it. And then I also read a little bit more of The Sisters of Winterwood by Resna Rosner, which is my book for Moldova. I'm really not enjoying this one. I am 44 pages in and I'm not having a good time with this. I think I mentioned before that, so it's split into the two sisters' perspectives, and one is just normal prose writing, and then the other is in verse, and I feel like when it's in verse it's stronger, perhaps because it's shorter and she has to be Rosner has to be a little bit more condensed, I guess is what I'm thinking of. And the dialogue in the like prose is just so forced, and I kind of hate it, but I'm gonna keep pushing on. This is 450 pages on the dot actually, so we're gonna keep going and hopefully it'll pick up. I am only like 40 pages in, so the story hasn't really started yet. Maybe once it does I'll enjoy it more. But yeah, I have that. And then this morning I had been reading that and I just really wasn't feeling it. So I thought that I would start something new. And I decided to go with The Historian by Elizabeth Kostova because it's a chunky one and I thought that I might as well start it. I might as well get into it. I did start this one last year for Eurovisionathon, so I did skim read most of what I've read today to get to this point where I hadn't read it before. But I'd read about probably 250 pages, maybe, as an ebook. And then I started reading sort of seriously from about page 200 to remind myself. And now I am on page 298, which is still like, yeah, it's still a bit of the way to go with that one, but I'm mostly enjoying this one, which is good. I think maybe by the end of today I might try and get to part 3, which is about another 100 pages. And then how long is this book? Okay, so this is like 642 pages long, but I think because I've read a good chunk that it should hopefully kind of go reasonably quickly from here. We'll see. And then the other day, Helen posted I say the other day, this was literally 23 hours ago. She posted a screenshot of the sort of top 10 countries that are expected to make the top 10. And I was realizing that out of them, I've currently read one. One of them is Finland. So if I do finish that one from Tove Jansson, that would mark that off. And then I've read Armenia. And one of the others is France. And I thought that it might be good in the next few days to pick up The Betrayal by Kate Fernbell, because I feel like this is, while it's kind of a large book, it's 430 pages, but I think it'll move reasonably quickly, and it has like quite large writing, so I'm hoping that it'll be kind of quick to get through. Oh, I forgot to mention that this is for the Netherlands, so hopefully we'll get to that one. And Percy is now crying because he's been left outside of the room, and I will leave it at that, and I will probably be back Thursday to let you know. Hopefully I finished something, to let you know what that thing might be, and then on Sunday to finish this vlog up. But I'll see you all then. Hello, it is Thursday. I'm kind of exhausted, but I finished another book. 4th book for the readathon. Not quite as many as I was hoping for, honestly, but I think hopefully maybe by the end of the month I will have finished another 1 or 2, but we're gonna start with the one that I did finish. And then I did make headway on a few others. So the one I finished this afternoon, which was kind of a surprise, but I really just pushed through this, actually ended up being The Woman Who Borrowed Memories by Tove Jansson. I think this is short stories, I think in all I probably enjoyed 4 of the short stories. Most of them, here's the thing, is that I could see that they were very well written, and her writing style is beautiful, but there were more than a few that were just kind of boring and a bit confusing, and I'm struggling at the moment to enjoy books, and so short stories is not a genre or a type, a form that I really enjoy reading. So I didn't hate this. I still gave it 3 stars. It's beautiful, but not for me, basically. But I finished it, so that's good. I honestly haven't made any more headway on The Historian. I thought I would, and then Tuesday afternoon I basically had a little bit of a panic attack, and instead of reading I just did that instead. So there's that. But I did also last night make some headway on The Sisters of the Winterwood, which last time I spoke to you I was not enjoying at all. I think I said something along those lines. I'm actually really enjoying it now. I am what, 120 pages in, 125 pages in, and it's actually getting into the story now. It's definitely a very slow, it's not even that slow. I think it's probably like page 80 things start to pick up, but it's more enjoyable now. I'm hoping that I can maybe get to around page 200 this afternoon. I have just edited a video, my rare haul, so that is exporting in the background. If you can hear a fan, that's my computer panicking because it is a long video. But this is kind of my plan for tonight, is to read and to hopefully get through this a little more. I think I have 2 other books on my TBR that I need to get from the library, but I'm trying to not have too many out at the one time. So I'd like to hopefully return this maybe next week and pick something else up at the same time. So we'll see how we go there. And yeah, but my goal today is maybe around the 200 page mark. It's actually quite a quick read, so I think that's doable. Yeah, I don't really have a plan for this weekend. I think that I want to work a little bit more on the historian, and I think I'll try and start the betrayal. Is it the betrayal or the betrayals? No, the betrayal. I think I'll probably start that one, but I also think that I might do some reading on Scribed, because I need to, I think I mentioned in my last clip, I need to get the trial to read another book for one of my I Let My Friends Pick My Book Haul series, and I have a few books. This is the only time of year that I use this service, so I will probably try and read the like 4 or 5 books that I have on there within this sort of like week period, so that I can then cancel my subscription, which probably isn't morally great, but I don't really care. I don't want to pay like $14.99 for a service that I'm not going to use at any other point. So yeah, that's that. We will see how we go, and I'll be back Sunday at afternoon/evening to let you know. And hopefully, yeah, I think my goal for the rest of this like 3 days is to try and finish these 2, maybe start something else or make decent headway on something. But I'll see you all Sunday. Okay, hello, it is Sunday. I had lost my Kindle for a second and it was right in front of me. I'm here to finish off the vlog for the first 2 weeks and tell you about what I have read, and then briefly wrap up some of the other things that I have been reading, and then I'm going to start the next vlog pretty much immediately after I finish this one, so I can talk about my plans for the last 2 weeks of the readathon, and I'm already excited for that. So we'll quickly go through this. Yeah, Friday night I finished off In Which Margaret Halifax Earns Her Shocking Reputation by Alexandra Vasti, which I ended up picking as my book for the UK. This is just a 90-page novella. It's a historical romance. It was good. It was really fun, nice and smutty, and I really enjoyed it. So this one is just mostly set in England. There's mentions of Scotland, so I don't know, sometimes I feel bad when I pick the UK And then I just end up reading books that are set in England because, like, you know, there's Wales, there's Scotland, there's Northern Ireland, and I feel like England is just like the basic one. So yeah, but I really enjoyed this, and I just wanted to get it out of the way so that I could focus on reading other countries that I haven't read before, and that I have bigger books for and things like that. So it was nice to just be like, okay, the UK is done and I don't have to worry about that, so we'll move on. So then last night I finished The Sisters of Winterwood, which is my book for Moldova, and I still feel very conflicted about this because I hated it at the start. I was really enjoying in the middle, but then it dragged a lot. I feel like my problem with this book is that it was trying to do too much. There was sort of like 3 or 4 different aspects to it, and I felt like none of them were particularly well fleshed out. So there is, what can I talk about? So there's this dark family secret. This follows 2 sisters. There's this dark family secret they discover at the start of the book, but there's also like a fairy tale, like a creepy fairy tale aspect, very like Grimm's fairy tales kind of thing there. And then there's a few other elements. One of them is so the sisters, as well as most of the people that they interact with, are Jewish, and running alongside those 2 stories is also this kind of like anti-Semitism, hints that lots, like mass groups of Jewish people are being killed, and that, for me, having all 3 of those things constantly running beside one another, I'm going to put this down for a second, meant that nothing felt fleshed out as much as it needed to be, because it was just like all 3 of those things were happening in unison, sometimes like within, you know, the same sentence, and it just meant that there was too much going on. And it just needed to even just be pared back to 2 of those things instead of 3 of them. I felt like there's that fairy tale aspect probably didn't really need to be in there if it had just been kept with this dark family secret, which still has kind of fantastical fairy tale elements to it. That would have been fine, along with the representation of Jewish faith and this, you know, all these things that are happening, which are historical events. I feel like if those 2 things had been happening alongside each other, it would have just been a much stronger book. I also will say that it's very confusing in the way that it's not obvious what time this is set in. In a way, it's kind of good because it is kind of unsettling because you don't know what it's going towards. But I just felt like it needed a little bit of grounding in order to make it a more powerful book, because it, like, literally it's just in the author's note that's like, oh hey, this is an actual thing that kind of happened, you know, minus the fairy tale stuff. This is, you know, a thing that the author, Raina Rosner's grandparents and ancestors and things were involved in, and it's just needed that strength in that aspect to come together a bit more. So I'm giving that one a 3.5 because I did enjoy it, but it's also honestly could have been about 100 pages shorter. It's like 429. It could have easily been a 300 page book, and nothing would have really been missing as long as it was stronger. So that's that one, but I'm glad that I read it, and it's another country that I haven't read from before, so that's great. And then we're going to briefly talk about the other things that I have been working on, and then we'll end this one and go into the next 2 weeks vlog. So I still have these three. No, I have these two on the go, which I've talked about. I've read a little bit more of Three Summers lately, so I'm 38 pages in. Still have absolutely no idea what's happening, but we'll talk more about goals about that one in the next one, and same with The Historian. And then I also started The Betrayal by Kate Fernvell. I only read the first 20 pages of this. This is my book for France, and again, we'll talk about it more in the next vlog. And then the other one I started last night. I wanted to read something off my Kindle because I was just feeling too tired to read physically. And the one I started was the Women and Change in... Is that what it's called? Wait, yeah, Women and Change in Cyprus. I've read the first 18% of that one, and again, we'll talk more about goals with that one in the next one. But that's it for the first 2 weeks. This is kind of rushed at the end because I want to start that new vlog, because I have kind of a plan for that over the next few days specifically. So I'm gonna jump into that one, and I will catch you all in a couple of days time with my next video. I haven't talked about this like at all on Twitter or anything, so I think I'm gonna put a tweet out about that tonight. And I've just been adding my books into the spreadsheet as I go along. But yes, let's hope that we're at 6 books. Plans incoming in the next one, and I'll see you all then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.